Good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday. Well, today I'm thinking about adventure films. Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones. What is similar about all of these? Well, they all have a hero in them, and the hero, doesn't matter what happens to the hero, he survives. That's the one reassuring thing about these adventure films. Because if you get attached to the hero, you at least know that he's going to survive to the end of the film. You don't know who else is going to die. Everyone's going to die around him, and all things are going to be thrown at him. He's going to survive fire and flood and disaster and crash and car chase. James Bond is the same sort of thing. And why am I thinking about this? It's because we're in 2 Corinthians 11, verses 22 onwards. Because Paul is the New Testament adventure man and the least likely hero you could never find. He starts out as a Jewish rabbi, a very learned man, and most traditions have him as not terribly attractive, not very tall, certainly not your classic adventure hero style person. He wasn't an Arnold Schwarzenegger anyway, not at all. But what did he go through? You read this passage about what he went through, and you wonder how on earth did he survive all of this? He was a walking miracle, or he was a walking adventure hero whom nothing could touch. You know, in these adventure stories, you know, there's a crash or there's a fire, and the only person who comes out hardly scathed, and he goes on to do more adventurous things, even though he's got bumps and bruises and cuts all over him. But the pain doesn't stop him. He just keeps going. They're just amazing. They're superheroes, and Paul is a superhero. Look at this. Look at this. So he says in verse 23, more labours, far more imprisonments, with countless beatings, and often near death. 5 times have I received at the hands of the Jews the 40 lashes less one. 3 times I've been beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I've been shipwrecked. A night and a day I've been adrift at sea, on frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, danger from robbers, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brethren, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure. That's what his life was like. He went from one near-death experience to the next. People turned on him. Mobs tried to stone him. He was shipwrecked. He wasn't even safe on the boat, on the sea. He was shipwrecked. He was adrift at sea. He was in... You read that and you imagine the life of this man, what he went through, all because he was following Jesus. So, my dear friends, all I can say is, if you want a quiet life and to be free to stay at home if you choose to, don't follow Jesus. People think that following Jesus leads to a quiet, contemplative, holy, prayerful life when nothing happens to you. And it's not true. When you give your life to Jesus, you have no idea where he's going to take you or what he's going to ask you to do. You have no idea what things he's going to bring across your path when you're following him. And if you look at Paul's life and you try to emulate Paul, who several times in his letters says, be like me. You know, he was 110% committed to following Jesus, whatever the cost might be. And many, many times in his life, he thought it was coming to an end, that he would not survive this latest thing. But none of it said to him, God is not with me. None of the things he experienced, all the hardship, all the opposition, all the violence, all the difficulty, all the hunger and thirst, none of it turned him away from knowing that he was following Jesus. So we cannot judge the success of our ministry by the degree of peaceful life we live, the degree to which our life is peaceful. Because Paul's wasn't. I don't think anyone's ever made a film of Paul's life. Because if you filmed a film and put all these things in, all these beatings, all these stonings, all these rejections, all these mob attacks, all this hunger and thirst, you would think this is not tenable. Nobody's going to believe that this was a real person. When we watch these films, we take it on the chin. I do watch some of them and reach the end and think, my goodness, nobody could have survived all the things this person has done and been through in this film. And it becomes like a joke to me because I think it's so far-fetched. But if you tried to film Paul's life, it is so far-fetched. I mean, the two that we do know about, well, there's several acts, aren't there? But there was the earthquake. In that earthquake, he was in the heart of a prison, chained to the wall. And yet, then an earthquake happened. I mean, the wall, all the doors fell down. The ground shook. It was a violent earthquake. And he survived it. And the shipwreck at the end was terrible. It was so frightening. All the mariners thought that they were going to die. They were experienced shipmen. But they survived. Paul knew God was not going to let him die in that shipwreck. God had more for him to endure because he went to Rome and he was imprisoned there, probably in a house arrest, but he was still restricted in what he could do. But here was Paul saying, this is what my life has been like. If you think you suffered for Jesus, if you think you've gone through it for Jesus, you haven't seen anything yet. He's saying to these Corinthians, if you think you've had more than I have, you haven't. Because look at what I've been through. And he did it all because it showed. Verse 30, he says, if I must boast, I'll boast of all the things that show my weakness. He survived. He was blessed because God was with him. God kept him through all those things. God kept him alive. God kept him. God, it seems, may have resurrected him a couple of times because nobody in those days when they stoned someone would leave them unless they were certain they were dead. If you were being stoned by a mob, they would not leave you until you were dead. So he may well have experienced resurrection. I don't know. But I do know that in everything he was weak because he was physical and human. But God used him. God used everything that happened in his life to promote the gospel of Jesus. And he took it on the chin, did our Paul, for love of Jesus. So he could boast and say, God did this. God is with me. God has a future for me. And I'm following him whatever comes my way. It's a great thought for the day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.